this computer, and it should say that it's recording. Hopefully I did that right. If not, and you want the recording of it and I don't have it, you'll have to come find me. Okay, so the Acapella app. So basically, the cool thing about this app is that there is only one extra piece of equipment that you need, and that's basically the earbuds with the cord. From what I understand, you can use those little AirPod earbuds, but I don't think that they work as well from what I've heard. I don't have those, so so I can't speak authoritatively on that. But basically just your phone and the earbud cords, and that's it. Because can you see my cursor? Is it moving around? Not moving around?
No.
All right, well, so you'll notice that in the cursor, you've got that little microphone piece of the cord, and that's your entire sound system right there. All the sound is coming in from that, and you can literally sit there and record any instrument you want, and it's going to come through and record through that little microphone on the iPhone earbud cord. So that's all you need to get started. And if you want to, get some kind of a stable platform for the phone, there are all kinds of tripod configurations. This one that I use is called the Ulanzi ST025, which sounds like some kind of a stealth fighter or something like that, but it's basically just a little iPhone stand. That was $15.95 on Amazon, but you can also stack up some books and just lean your phone against that. It doesn't really matter. This one just gives you a little bit more versatility, and it's kind of a nice thing to use. And I can also take off that top section and I can put it onto a regular full-length camera tripod if I want to stand up and strum or play banjo or something like that, or get a little distance from the camera. Any questions so far? Okay, all right. Okay, so, and it just blurt out whatever, or raise your hand if I'm talking over you and we're canceling each other out. Raise your hand, make sure that I know that you're trying to butt into my monologue here. So I don't like to hear myself talk that much. So if you want to improve sound quality, which I found out you can do, you can get a mic like this one. So here's the mic that I use. You can see it in the picture there. It's an AKG Pro Audio Lyra Ultra HD. They can't just call things simple names anymore, like the Suzy homemaker oven or whatever. So anyway, it's a nice, it's about $150. It's a reasonably priced mic. But if you do get an external mic, you have to make sure that it's one that has zero latency monitoring. And the reason for that is because you want to make sure that what you think you're playing along with is exactly what you're playing along with timing wise. Because you can't get into the Acapella app and make things sync. So they either sync or they don't. And the nice thing about Acapella is that everything syncs beautifully just automatically. But if your mic doesn't have zero latency monitoring or some terminology that says the same thing, then it's probably not the one for you. And the monitoring is important because you put your earbuds through here and you listen to it while it's connected to your phone. So you're kind of connected to the whole situation. So you can see there's a USB cable that goes from the mic to that white dongle, which then goes to the phone. And that little white dongle is important because you can't put a USB cable into an iPhone or an iPad, obviously. So you have to get an adapter, and this is called a USB camera adapter. And this one that I got was about $17 from Amazon. You can see there on the left-hand side of the flat thing that it's got a little place for your USB cord from the mic. And then the other end you can see is your basic lightning plug for your iPhone or your iPad. So that just basically makes it all kind of string together, and it works perfectly. Is that making sense as I describe it that way?
Yeah, Tom, I have a couple. So the male end out of the microphone is a USB.
The male end out of the microphone is it's a mini USB. Let me see if I can get this. Where are we here? It's a mini USB.
Ah, okay.
So that's out of the microphone, and that's what comes stock with the mic. But it's, let's see, what is that? Well, it comes stock with the mic, so the cord comes with the mic, so that's not really much of a concern, but it's not exactly, it's actually symmetrical. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's not the
Yeah, yeah, those are used for a lot of things. Do you know if there are adapters? If I don't have a USB mic, but if I were to get one, I'd want one that I could also use for my computer for various things. I imagine there must be adapters going from mini to full-size USB.
Yeah, so this one, so here on this end, it's the mini thing, and then on this end, it's the regular USB. So I use
Oh,
regular USB. So I use this for my computer as well.
oh, okay, okay,
Yeah, it'll plug straight into the computer. You don't need an adapter for that, so you're good to go on that front.
great. And then the other question, let me know if you're getting too far afield here, but
Oh, good.
I have a lot of old I used to have a rig that was a home recording studio out of my laptop, and just a lot of changes and keyboards breaking down, and changes and upgrades and all sorts of things. It's not functioning now. I have a lot of really good mics,
Yeah.
but no way to get it into my computer. So would an alternative way to do this be putting one of those? My mics mostly need phantom power. Putting it into a mixer that has USB out, and that would have no latency or low latency.
You know, that's a great question. And I would say that's one of those questions that's probably above my pay grade. You probably know more about that than I do. Yeah, so there are probably some great configurations that will give you like amazing sound that I'm not even familiar with. So you've probably got more experience with that than I do. Yeah, we wish I could be more helpful on that front, Bruce, but
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate what you're doing.
yeah, you bet. Okay, so anyway, this is one way to do it. You can get better sound this way because when you have the earbuds, like Jeff's got the earbuds in there. If you can see Jeff's face there, he's got the earbuds in with the inline mic, and that's the most basic way to use Acapella. And that's great. I mean, you can do great fun stuff with that, but you're going to get any other any other sound that's in the room. You're going to get all the ambient sound that's in the room. You know, you might hear a fire truck passing by, you might hear a dog barking in the distance or somebody clanging dishes in the other room. And I mean, that's great for atmosphere if you like atmosphere, but if you're trying to make it a little bit more quiet sounding, then you might want to go for something like this. But again, you'll have a blast even with just that mic cord. So the earbud mic cord. Okay, and again, this is the dongle. There are different dongles. This is just the one I picked, and I can't remember why. I don't use those other two outlets with the headphones and the little lightning bolt at all. So I really have no memory of that at all. So, hey, Sarah. Can you hear me, Sarah?
Yes.
All right. Hey, Sarah, nice to see you. I didn't know you were going to be on here. Sarah's a fellow Seattleite. All right, welcome.
I'm curious about your videos, so thanks.
Yeah, you bet. Sarah and her husband host an open mic thing during the COVID sheltering in place thing, and they get some really fun people on there doing live Facebook Live music. It's really cool. Okay, so that's a little adapter that you can use between the mic and your phone. But again, you can just use the earbuds with the thing like Jeff has that he's wearing right now, and that'll do the trick as well. So whatever setup you decide to use, let's go ahead and take a look at the app itself. Let's jump right into this little puppy. And here we go. So this is where the fun starts. You can see the arrow going all the way down to that little bottom center icon that looks like a red square with a couple of microphones in it. And that is what you want to click onto if you want to start a project. So if you have your app downloaded and you want to follow along on your phone, you can totally do that right now. But that's where you would start. Just click on that. And if you've already recorded videos and you've saved them with the save and share mode, which I'll tell you about a little bit later, if you've already saved them, you can click that other little bell notification icon with the red dot. And what that'll do is it'll help you find the recordings you've already made. And the cool thing about that is that you can actually go back and find those older recordings, and you can modify them again. You can lay down, you can replace a track that you laid down the first time. You can do all kinds of things. It's a really cool feature. So this is where it starts. You click on that lower center icon,
Oh,
and then you get this screen right here. And this is the last recording that I did, which was Angela and the Baker. So that's what I got. Now you get these two buttons here. Yeah, Bruce.
Um, Sorry to interrupt your flow here, but I did download it just a little bit earlier, but then when I hit the first page, it looks like there's a sign-up process. Is that just even get into the program, or
Yeah, that's probably just the whole registration of the thing. Yeah.
even for the trial version, or?
I would imagine they probably want to suck you into it somehow, so they probably want your info or something. But,
If you're trying to record anything a minute or longer, it takes you to the sign-up screen.
yeah, there's some pretty competing noise from something. I'm not sure what that is, but it sounds like a copy machine or a or
I'm
something.
getting rain on my air conditioner, so I'll keep my mostly on mute.
Yeah, that was it, Bruce. Thanks, appreciate it. Yeah, so you probably have to go through that kind of process of registering and stuff. So then you get these two buttons once you hit that lower center icon button. The first button is the red one. It says record now. And that's what you hit if you want to begin a solo project. So if you're only going to be collaborating and jamming with yourself, which is what I've done so far, that's the one that you would hit. If you want to collaborate with other people, and I have to say, I have to confess that I've never done this. I've wanted to, but I've never done this. Then you would hit the join collaboration button. And then what you can actually do is you can text the project to another person who also has the paid version of the app. And then you can kind of go back and forth. Like I did a tune the other day called White Dove. And I really wanted to collaborate with this really fun fiddle player, but she had not downloaded the app, so I couldn't. So then I had to fake it with some fake lead guitar stuff, which is not my forte, but it turned out okay. But anyway, so let's say you're only collaborating with yourself. So you hit the record now, and once you hit the record now, then you go to the next page or the next screen. And on the next screen, if you already have a project that you've started, or you've saved a project, but the last one that you saved is still on the screen, which it typically is, then it asks you, do you want to, let's see, what does it actually say there? Let me look close here. It says, this will remove your current project and start a new one. Do you want to continue? So this is commitment time here. You've got to decide whether you want to continue or not. And if I'm starting a new project, then I say yes, because maybe I've saved that project or I gave up on that project or whatever. I don't care about it anymore. So I say yes, and then I go to this screen. So this is where you start getting to get a little bit creative. And again, it's a very logical, sequential process that this app actually leads you through. So it should be pretty basic and easy to follow. So they give you the opportunity. Do you want to have the classic look or the premium look? I'm not sure that any app could be called classic at this point because most apps are pretty new, but there you go. And the classic apps tend to be, well, you'll see what the classic apps look like in a sec. The premium apps tend to be a little like, kind of a little bit like those photo frames that you used to see back in the 80s, you know, that have like round circles or ovals or squares with a bunch of snapshots that you put behind them. It's a little bit like that. They have different, you know, kind of like tilted lines and angled lines and stuff. They're a little bit more kind of, I guess, artistic-y. I tend to go for the classic. So I'm going classic on this one, and I'm looking at the options. And by the way, you can see the little dots there beneath all those squares. That means you can just scroll to the left, scroll to the right. And I think the simplest version you can do is 2 squares, and the most complex you can do is 9 squares. You can't do any more than 9 panels on any given recording. So here's where you want to stop and say, okay, so what's the song I'm doing? how many instruments do I want to have? How many vocals do I want to have? If I'm doing something, I almost always do 3 vocals so I can do melody, high harmony, low harmony. And I might say, okay, I want to have, I want to have 1 bass, 1 guitar, maybe a Mando chop panel and a Mando lead panel and a banjo or something like that. And so I'll decide how many panels I want accordingly. But let's say I'm going to do Angeline the Baker again, which is banjo, guitar, Mando, bass. So I'm going to go for that 5-panel thing. And there are different versions of the 5-panel thing, but this is the most kind of equal sized panels that you see here. So I'm going to go with that one. You can also decide which ratio you want. So you can have like a square, which is what I typically do, and I have no idea why. I think I might need to branch out a little bit and try one of those other ratios, like the ones that actually fit onto YouTube, which would be the 16:9. But anyway, you pick whatever your ratio is. I think the default is the square one, so you'll have to intentionally choose one or the other. Okay, and what questions do you have so far? I want to make sure that I don't leave anybody in the dust here.
I don't see anything getting me 9.
Say that again, Jeff. I can't hear you're not coming out here. Sorry.
Okay.
There you are.
Okay. When I look at that on my phone, I'm only seeing options of like 3 or 4 squares, where I know yours is showing, 6 or more.
And
Yeah.
you have the paid version, both of you?
I do.
And you've scrolled all the way to the end?
Oh, okay. That's probably what it is. That's what it is. Okay. I didn't see the square.
That is it. I thought I used all of them.
So are you seeing the same thing, Tim? Are you scrolling to the end and seeing some larger numbers?
No, I'm not.
Huh.
That's all right. Right now, I'll just go with what I have.
Okay, yeah, I don't know why that would be, because it should have the option for 9 squares in there. So
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, I don't know what to say about that. That's a bummer.
Yeah, I was intrigued when I saw you on Facebook with that.
Say that again now.
I said I was intrigued when I saw you on Facebook with 9 squares, or 8 squares, I guess it was.
My 8
I
identical.
don't see that option here. That's all right. I can tinker with that.
Okay.
I can tinker with that without holding up the group.
Okay, cool. All right, thanks. So that's where you kind of set up for what you want, and then it takes you to the next square, which is how long do you want your tune to be? And here's the thing that's really important to know. Your video will only be as long as the very first track you lay down. So let's say, like what I typically do is I'll set my metronome, which I'll show you how to do in a second, but I'll set my metronome and I'll lay down the guitar track, because that for me is just kind of the easiest thing to have as sort of a foundation for the song. And, but if I'm not thinking ahead, and let's say that I'm one of those really fancy banjo players, which I'm not, and I have some really cool end lick that I want to do, like a shave and a haircut, 2 bits kind of thing at the end of the tune, if I don't plan for that, even when I lay down that first guitar track, then I'm going to be cut off before I can finish my lick. And I mean, like, you just don't want to cut off a cool banjo lick, right? I mean, that's just like a travesty. So, so definitely think about that ahead of time. And it gives you all these options for how long to make the song. So you could say, okay, well, I got to go through the song in my head and time it and see how long it is. But that, to me, that's just a waste of time. It's easier just to choose 10 minutes. I always just choose 10 minutes, because seriously, unless you're going to do a cover of In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, you're not going to go up to or beyond 10 minutes. In fact, Bohemian Rhapsody, which is like an interminably long song, goes a whopping 6 minutes. So, you know, I mean, unless you're having one of those jam circles with like 30 people or something where, you know, you're playing, I don't know, Fire on the Mountain or something like that, and everybody's taking a break, and that, you know, that's going to last 20 minutes or so, chances are you're not going to ever exceed the 10-minute thing. So I always put 10 minutes down so that I have more than what I need. Does that make sense to everybody? Anybody confused by that idea?
Yeah, yes.
Actually, a question. So if you set it for 10 minutes but go 4 minutes, you won't get that dead air. It'll stop when your first track
It'll
stops.
stop. It'll stop dead. As soon as you hit that stop button, the record stop button, it stops. Yeah. Yeah.
Is
Great.
that for the track? So like if you set it for 10 minutes and it's 4 minutes on the first track and you hit stop, the second track, will it go past the 4 minutes?
No, the second track will begin at 0 and sync with the first track.
So will it go past 4 minutes if you needed that?
No. No. So that's what I'm saying is whatever that first track is, whenever you stop that, that will be the length of the entire song according to the first track.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's
And I
a,
found the 9 frames.
yeah.
Tom, can you record like a first track as a scratch track, maybe a voice and a guitar, and then build some on top of that, and then replace your first track?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, you can always, that's a great question. You can always go back and then just touch the screen of that first track and re-record it either as like just guitar or even guitar and vocals or whatever you want. Yeah, for sure.
I'm assuming that's what you do with your metronome. You start off with a metronome track, and then you play your guitar to it. Then you come back and take it out.
So what I do with the metronome, in fact, if you don't mind holding off on that thought, I'll come back to that.
All right, all right.
Yeah, because we're going to talk about the metronome in just a sec, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So set it for more time than you need, and then you can move on to the next one, which is, once you've set the time, then you can move on. And this is your blank canvas right here. And this is where you'll have to decide, okay, what do I want my various panels to include? And for me, I tend to put guitar and bass in the larger panels, maybe because they're both bigger instruments. I don't really know. I actually don't know how they would look in the smaller panels, but I tend to just put them in the bigger panels just because they're both, just the body of them is larger than the other instruments that I play. So, but again, just per Bruce's question, you can actually go back and touch that screen again and re-record the whole thing with a different instrument if you want. So it's no big deal, which is kind of sweet.
You can't migrate one from one square into, oh, I prefer the different layout later.
No, I don't think so. I know you can't like move them around. Not like those little games where you have that blank space and you keep moving it around, Yeah, I think you're kind of stuck with the configuration that you settle on to begin with. That's why it's good to think about that stuff before you kind of commit to a particular layout of the panels. So once you've made that decision, you got your blank canvas going, then you go to the next screen. And by the way you go to the next screen is by touching on whichever panel you want to start with. So let's say it's the upper left panel. That's where I want my melody vocals to go or whatever. So I touch on that, and the next screen I see is this one with my mug up there in the upper left. And here you have a couple of options to play with. The first is the input controls. And, I suspect Bruce, just judging Bruce by the way that you were talking about some of that sound system stuff, you probably have a better feel for some of this stuff than I do. But the only thing that I set with the input controls is the gain for the mic. That's the only thing I set. There are, I'm sure, other things you can do in there, but I don't know what they are. And what I tend to do is I'll tend to, you'll see that the gain is set all the way to the top. That's that long top line with the little red circle. That is typically set all the way to the top. So I back it off really no farther than where I've drawn that little line there, because if I set it too low, then the volume is too low on playback. But if I set it too high, especially if it's like a voice, then you get that kind of distorted sound and it just doesn't sound good at all. So the only thing that I keep it full gain for is bass, because I have a bass guitar that's just all acoustic. And so, it doesn't exactly scream out at the mic. So I keep the gain real high for that one, but the rest of them I tend to.
Notice that on your video.
Yeah. So back to this one again. So you've got the input controls. That's that little blue thing that looks like a jack. Then the other one is to set the metronome. and setting the metronome, back to Tim's observation, this is kind of cool because the metronome is nice because it's so great to be able to start a song and end a song at the same speed. You know, most people have,
The app has its own metronome.
say that
Is what
again.
you're
Sorry?
saying? You're saying the app has its own metronome?
It does.
Okay, all right, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, pretty cool, huh? So the app's got its own internal metronome, and you've got the time signatures 1 4 2 4 3 4 4 4. And in order to use the metronome, that little switch has got to be turned on, that little slider on the left-hand side of the two squares. And then, of course, the plus and minus, that just basically determines the BPM, the beats per minute. And then the volume on your phone or on your little earbud volume control will make the metronome either nice and loud or really soft and subtle. I tend to like it fairly loud just because I want to try to stay on track if I can. But I also...
Can you add time signatures? I happen to do a whole genre of music that's almost completely 6/8, for example.
Oh, man. See, I'm not worthy. I don't even know. I mean, can you do 3/4 time and make that 6/8?
Probably. Excuse me. It's a there's so much messing around with times within that 6/8 in this genre. Yeah. It's a Mexican music style. I'll have to explore that.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I'm looking at all those instruments in your background and I'm like, yeah, you do mess around with a little bit of different genres of music. That's cool. All right. So the metronome, again, you can just, just adjust it according to your speed and whatever speed you want. And definitely, when you think you've got the right time signature or the right beats per minute, the tempo, definitely kind of go through it in your head just to make sure it's not too fast or too slow. Because sometimes when you start launching into a song, you've maybe set it a little bit too slow or a little bit too fast until you sort of try it out. So just kind of give it a quick little run through. Okay, any questions so far? I don't want to go too fast here.
You've been super helpful.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's say you...
Do you have an email or a phone number in case I think of something tomorrow?
Yeah, I do, yeah. My email is Tom, it's a tough one, Tom at soundcoaching, SOUND coaching.com. Yeah, and feel free to fire off any questions or thoughts or feedback or whatever that you have.
Thank you very much for that. I'll try to keep it to a minimum.
No worries. It's fun to share this stuff with people because it's music. I mean, music's so fun. So, all right. Okay, so that is where we're at. Is Monique still on the line? Are you still on the line, Monique?
Yeah. Yes, and I have a question.
Yeah.
Will you hear the metronome in the recorded video or just through the earbud?
So that's a great question, and it is one thing that makes the earbud thing less than perfect because the sound of the metronome is so close to the microphone on the cord that you're likely going to hear it at least a little tiny bit. So if you're using the cord version for the sound system, it might be good to turn the metronome down as low as you're comfortable turning it down to. And even when I use this guy right here, every so often it'll pick up just a little trace of the metronome sound. So, and unfortunately there's no way to eliminate that once it's in there because it's recorded in with the rest of the tracks. So it might be, if your metronome is useful for, say, laying down your first track of rhythm guitar, maybe it'd be good to turn it off for every other thing so that you don't have kind of a compiled sound that adds kind of a cumulative volume.
But I'm sorry, are you finished, Monique, with your question?
Yes, thank you.
And by the way,
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, Monique, can I plug your jam books?
Sure.
So Monique Tyndall has these really, really cool bluegrass jam books, and they're sitting right around here somewhere, but I don't want to leave the screen to, to grab them. But they're little, they're 8.5 by 11 folded in half. So they're like tall like this. You can put them in your back pocket or throw them into your instrument case. And she's produced 4 of these things so far, and they've got just about every tune under the sun with the Nashville numbering system, and they're so fantastic. So maybe if somebody is interested in getting a hold of some of those, you can connect with Monique, and she can tell you how to do that. But they're, man, they're so fantastic to have at jams. I love them.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. All right. So Tim, go ahead. Oh, sorry, Monique, were you going to say something else?
Oh, I was going to say, if you want a book, my email address is mtindall57. That's MTINDALL 57 at yahoo.ca.
Yahoo.ca, Canada. And what are they like $5 each or something like that?
$5 plus postage.
They're so worth it. I love them. I use them constantly.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks Monique. So Tim, you were gonna say
Well,
something.
my question was, I have tinkered with some other, excuse me, recording equipment, and I have just the most basic of experience. But what I would think that if the metronome was, giving us any sound at all on the recording track, I would think I could just record an instrument and have an exterior metronome in my headset, and that would give me time. And then the rest of the tracks I could just play to the first track.
Yes, actually, you totally could. Yeah, you totally could. So that's actually a really clever way to not have any metronome sound in your track. Another similar way of doing that would be to use the internal metronome for a track and then re-record that track without the metronome if you've got another one that's established on the basis of that first one.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing to think about though is that the metronome can actually be great. So like if you're doing a, do y'all know that bluegrass tune? It's mighty dark for me to travel since my sweet Archie is gone. You know that one, that old Bill Monroe song? Well, anyway, it's like a dee, 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 dee. It's pretty fast. And the way that it comes in is you just kind of do the pinching run with the banjo, bum, 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 like that. And the nice thing about the metronome is that you can hear that click in your head, and it's really solid. 1, 2, 3, bum, 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 like that. So it's really nice to have, and I've kept that internal metronome thing going partly because even if a little bit of sound shows up on the ultimate thing, it feels worth it to me throughout the whole song. So yeah, but those are great solutions if you don't want any trace of that sound in there at all, for sure. Yeah.
I assume there's no way to clip your video so you cut off a beginning and an ending if you want to.
Not to my knowledge. Yeah, not to my knowledge. If you find one though, broadcast that.
No, it sounds like we might, ongoingly support each other if we explore this. So this is wonderful. So
Yeah,
you're doing this.
Great. All right, cool. So, okay, so you got your metronome set, you got your click track set. If you do not want a metronome and you're just like, you know what, I'm just going to go free and easy. I am my own rhythm, whatever. Then just go ahead and click that thing off and you will hear no metronome whatsoever. It'll be absolutely silent. Now you are ready to record a track. So, let's see. Well, I got those things when I did this PowerPoint, I got those things out of order just a little bit. Or did I? Wait a minute. Okay, so back up just a little bit. So I've done my input controls. I set my metronome. Then I hit record. So forget that one on the far left. I think I got that a little bit out of order. Sorry about that. Oh, no, I didn't actually. I think I probably just didn't put in a slide that would have been helpful here. But So going back here, once I've set my metronome and my internal controls, I hit record and I go ahead and just lay down my track. So the nice thing about this thing is whether you have the metronome or not, it has a countdown. There's a numerical countdown on the screen, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom. And then after 1, you're ready to go, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great feature. So once you start recording and then you do your whole thing and then you hit stop, then you can go to the, let's see, let me just double check here. I want to make sure I'm not getting something out of sequence here. I do this like all the time. And okay. Yeah, so then you hit stop. And then it gives you the screen that says continue or redo. And you might have only gotten like 10 seconds into the track and you're like, oh man, I totally blew that, or I don't like how that sounds or whatever. Then when you hit stop and you see that continue or redo thing, just hit redo and it'll just go back to scratch. You know, you're not using memory or anything like that. It'll just take you right back to the beginning. But let's say you lay down the track and you're just like, yeah, nailed it. Then you can hit continue. And then as soon as you hit continue, you'll see that second screen, the one in the middle there. And you'll see along the bottom, there's kind of like a film reel of the entire track. And what that does is it basically plays back the whole track for you. But if you knew you got the track down pretty well, I never mess with that. And what I do instead is I go up to the top right and I hit that green check. And basically that's your kind of like save button throughout the entire process. And once you hit that green check, it interrupts the playback and it just immediately starts rendering that particular panel into your total production. And it sets you up so that you're ready to play the next, or to lay down the next track. So what's confusing about that? Because I can imagine that there might be something.
No, it makes sense to me.
Okay. Again, you only do this maybe 2-3 times and it'll be like you can do it in your sleep. It becomes so simple that it's actually a very easy app to use. So that little red circle can take a little bit of a while, especially when you've got like several tracks that are rendering at the same time, but you render one track at a time by clicking that little green check mark. So, so then once that's done, then you're ready to go on to your next panel. So maybe I'm going to click that upper right panel and I'm going to do my other, like a high harmony vocal or something. So I'll do a high harmony vocal, go through the same process. It'll ask me I don't even have to hit stop, by the way. Once I've hit stop on the first one, I never have to hit stop again. So it automatically stops where the very first track stopped. That makes sense?
Tom, the only way you would render would be one track at a time, right?
Yes. Yeah, but it tends to be a little bit slower the more tracks are on there for some reason. I don't know why, because it's really only rendering, I think, the one thing, but maybe it's rendering the project as it grows in size or something. I don't really know.
If I can interrupt, I used a pre-existing recording for mine.
Yeah.
You know, I took a recording I already had on my phone and then I added tracks to it. It'll allow you to do that. Let's see. I'm looking at the wrong screen, but there is a button on there that'll allow you to choose another, recording you have on your phone.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah, that's cool. So if you've already got, like maybe you want to do an accompaniment with, some Bob Dylan tune, but actually use Bob Dylan as the person or something like that, then you can be like a whole band playing along with him or something, or with yourself, because like the one you did, right?
Right.
Yeah, because the other 3 frames where you were in a different place than the original one.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. I haven't tried that, but I'll have to experiment with that too. Thanks, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's say you lay down a bunch of tracks and you're like, yeah, I like it enough, which is usually what I say. I like it enough. I have no musical ambitions other than having fun. So So here's the screen that you're left with. This is me doing Angeline the Baker. There are my 5 screens. And this is where it gets really fun. I love this part because that little panel down there at the bottom of your screen has a bunch of icons that do some pretty fun stuff. So the one on the far left, which is just kind of a play button, essentially that is just a playback button, and it will tell you what your song sounds like currently. So at any given time in the mixing process, you can hit that button and you can find out how the song sounds right now. So that's what you do for that. And then you've got also the one next to it, which I'll tell you about in just a second. We're going to skip that one for just a second. But the one in the middle there is one that's got like little stars, and that's got like effects. So, you know, if you want to make your recording look like an Andy Warhol painting, or if you want to give each frame kind of a different filter or something like that, you can do that. You can play around with that. And then the one that has the horizontal stripes on it, that is one that will let you determine which color you want to use in the little border lines between the panels. So if you have maybe a really dark, you know, video production and you want to do, say, really bright yellow to really accent the difference between them, you can do that. I usually just keep it at white, but you can play around with that. So, and the little C thing, I guess that's some kind of a copyright thing. I have no idea what that is, since I don't really care. You can play around with that and tell me what it is. You can email me, tell me what it is. Okay.
I just, it gives you, you can type in something like I put Jeff Mallory music.
Oh, okay,
on my
okay.
Video.
Okay, cool.
Say that again. I couldn't hear that.
You're very hard to hear, Jeff.
I'm sorry. I use that. It brings up a block and you can type in a description. Like I typed in Jeff Mallory music, and that'll show up the bottom. On the screen he's showing there where it says Acapella, it'll put that there in the bottom right-hand corner.
Oh, okay. Right. I only sing other people's stuff, so I probably won't be doing that, but that's good to know. All right. Thanks, Jeff. So, so now you want to do some mixing. So that second from the left button, that's the one where you do the really fun mixing. And I like this part because you can take something that sounds maybe a little choppy and you can really make it sound a lot better. So here's where the controls are, and you can't see all the controls at once. So I've got the phone lying in a horizontal way on this screen. Excuse me. If you hold your phone upright like a portrait format, then those controls will show up on the bottom. But essentially, there are more controls than what you can see there. You can just kind of slide up with your thumb and you can reach the other controls. The ones that I control right away, that I just go to right away, are volume, panning, and reverb. So so let's say that I want to. Oh, okay. So by the way, let me back up one step here. So I touch that screen, the one that looks like the little speaker, the little volume thing there, the second from the left on the bottom. I touch that, and immediately it goes here, and immediately the song starts playing as is. So you definitely want to make sure that you've got your earbuds in so that you're getting the full, you know, kind of stereo, best quality sound possible. And what it does is it just keeps playing the song on a continuous loop until you're done mixing it. So the first panel is volume, and you want to adjust. And the way you do it is you touch whatever screen you want to adjust. Just touch that screen, and immediately the controls will apply to that screen. So you'll notice that there's a red perimeter around the guitar. That's because I've touched the guitar as the one that I want to adjust the controls on. So my guitar control depends on the song. You know, sometimes you want a really wailing guitar, sometimes you want it really subtle in the background. But you just kind of adjust it where you want it, and you'll adjust it more as you go along, because as soon as you make adjustments on the other instruments, you'll find yourself going, oh, I think I need to bring the guitar up a little bit. And the cool thing is, you know, you can do that till the cows come home, and nobody's going to stop you. And then the panning thing is cool because, yeah, Bruce.
Is the is on these things? Let's say volume for now. Once you decide on one, is that the set volume for the whole track?
No.
Or
Oh, yes. Yes, for that track.
Change volume over the duration of the piece.
No,
No.
no, you can't. Unfortunately, you can't change the volume over the duration of the piece, like you can with like Audacity or something like that. You know, where you're just doing sound. That would be nice because sometimes it would be nice to, you know, just kind of pinch that whole thing off when you've got that clunky section that you didn't do too well on. But yeah, great question. Yeah, I wish it did, but it doesn't. The panning thing is cool. What I usually do is I leave the guitar in the center because it's kind of foundational to the rest of the song. And then I usually put the bass off to the left. And then I'll put, not necessarily all the way to the left, but toward the left. And then I'll usually put maybe the mandolin off to the right and maybe the banjo off to the left a little bit. And you can play with where you want them in your head while you're listening to it, which is really great. It's just a fun way to just kind of make it sound so much better than it would have otherwise. And then you touch the next screen, you do the same thing and until all the screens have been gone through, and you can go back and change any screen you want at any time, which is nice. You can also adjust, there's also an equalizer, and let me see what that one is. I can't even read that one. It's so small on my screen here. Equalizer and processor. My guess is, Jeff, you know more about that than I do. If, let's say, for instance, that you recorded your guitar a little bit too softly, and you're like, oh man, I was trying to be too subtle, and no matter how high I turn up the volume on my guitar, it's just too soft. You can go into, I forget whether it's equalizer or processor, and the only thing you're going to hear is whatever instrument panel you've touched or vocal panel you've touched. It can be scary because you're like, oh my gosh, that sounds so bad. Or like a single vocal panel. You're like, no, tell me I don't actually sound like that. But it's nice because you can adjust the volume. If you scroll down on the control, you can find a place that adjusts the volume, and you can see it you can pick the designation and how you want to edit it and stuff like that. But that's getting a little bit more into the weeds than the basic stuff, but you can tweak it more than what this one screen will allow you to do is what I'm saying here.
If you're familiar with the reverb, is all the way to the left totally dry? If it's in the middle, does it come automatically with a little bit of reverb?
Yeah, so totally, all the way to the left is totally dry. I would say typically it's just a tiny bit left of center where you can start really hearing that there's some reverb in there. And I usually bring my reverb up a little bit just to the left of center with vocals. I don't know. I think it sounds better. Probably not everybody does, but again, I'm doing it for fun. So nobody's going to ever discover me and hire me for music. So I'm not worried about that. But yeah, that's all the way to the left. There's zero reverb, and all the way to the right, you know, you're inside of a tin can. So yeah. Okay, so let's say that you've gone through this and you've made all the adjustments and you're like, I like how this sounds. This is pretty good. All right, or it's good enough for me. I'm gonna enjoy this. Then you hit that little green check mark again, because again, that's kind of the continual save button along the way. And by the way, when you're rendering, when you click that initially to render each track, it takes a long time. But when you click it to update any tweaks that you've made, it goes really, really fast, just a few seconds, and you're done. So then you save it for one last time, and then you go to the next screen after you've done that, and it gives you this option here. So there's my finished project, and I hit save and share. I'm looking at the time. We've got 5 minutes before I think this thing is going to kick us off. So I'm going to go a little fast here if you don't mind. You hit save and share, and that is what your final project will be. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't go back and tweak it later, but when you click save and share, then it'll take you to this screen, and it'll basically ask you how you want to save it and where you want to share it. What I typically do is I save it on the camera roll of my phone, and the reason that I do that is because if I save it to Facebook or say Instagram or something like that, it's more like a kind of an acapella app production thing, and I really just want it to be kind of a basic video. So I save it to my camera roll of my phone, and from there, I can upload it to Facebook, or I can put it onto YouTube, because it's a lot easier to share from a link on YouTube than it is to share the entire file, because it's, you know, it's a fairly heavy file. So that's what I typically do, and this takes a few minutes. It takes a little while to you know, get it all processed and done. And then another screen will come up, and I can't remember what's on that screen, but I basically just click X, like, nah, whatever you're asking me, I'm not interested. So thorough is my knowledge of this app. Anyway, that's basically what I do, and then I got my video on my phone ready to share any way that I want to share it from there. Tim, were you saying something? Sorry.
No, you
Oh.
were minimizing your knowledge, and I was saying you got a lot more than us.
Oh, well, you know, thanks. Again, though, it's kind of an intuitive app. Once you just kind of follow through the prompts and you realize how they work, it's actually a lot easier to go back each time and use it again, almost without thinking. So, and my last slide is this: have fun.
Thank you. I know I'm going to be getting back with you, but you give me something to work with.
Oh, cool. Does anybody have any questions about any aspect of it while we've still got a couple of minutes here?
I
Yeah.
do, Tom. Thanks so much. This is really great. The final result is a square, correct? That's all
Well,
contained in a square.
if you set it, if that's the aspect ratio that you choose, but you can also do a more of a landscape 16:9 setup as well.
Gotcha. Okay.
So earlier on, let me go back to that place. In fact, yeah. So right here, you'll see in the bottom, you've got a square, you've got a rectangle, and you've got a vertical rectangle. Those are your options. You see that? You're muted still, Bruce.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think probably if you're going to put something on YouTube, my guess is that you would want the 16:9 ratio. I should try that next time, because I never have. I really should branch out. Stretch my wings.
You can't edit it to another ratio afterwards, right?
Not to my knowledge, no. I'm pretty sure you're stuck with what you initially choose.
And second question that arose goes back to what you were talking about early on. Do any of you know if there's a major difference between using the built-in mic and an external mic in this platform?
I can tell you, you know, what I could do is, maybe what I'll do, which mandolin site are you on Facebook?
I think it's Mandolin Group.
Okay, so what I can do is I can go on the Mandolin Group and I can post 2 YouTube videos, you know, in sequence, maybe on this thread, on the thread for this this workshop, and one will be done with the earbud mic, and one will be done with my AKG mic, and you can kind of tell the difference yourself. You can see what difference it makes. Does that work?
You are my hero. This is great.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
No, you've gone so far above and beyond. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you bet. Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. Any other questions? Okay.
I'll have time.
Say that again, Tim. Sorry.
Wait till tomorrow. I'll have a time.
Oh man. Okay. Yeah. Well, just fire off an email to me with any questions that you have at all. So, yeah. All right. Well, hey, thank you all. I mean, I really appreciate you taking me up on this offer. This was fun to connect with all of you on Zoom. And who knows, maybe I almost got to jam with Monique this summer up at Nimble Fingers in BC, but you know, COVID kind of messed that up. But and I occasionally get to jam with Sarah, but you know, we're not jamming in person in Seattle right now, obviously either. So,
Right.
so best of luck to everybody. And again, just don't hesitate to reach out. I love talking about this stuff with people.
Tom,
Thank
thanks.
you very much.
I know you did this, you know, just to share with your community, but you're really a good presenter, and you really,
Oh, thanks.
yeah, appreciate it a lot. It's great.
Thank you. I
Very
appreciate
good.
that. Thank you. Thank you.
And
What
nice
is sound
meeting
coaching?
you.
What
Pardon
is
me,
sound coaching?
Uh, sound coaching, did you say? What is sound coaching?
Yeah, that's your.
Yeah, so I do executive coaching, and I actually speak all over the country on different subjects. So yeah.
So it's not our meaning of sound.
No, I live on the Puget Sound. It's kind of a double entendre, you know. So Puget Sound, sound as in, you know, solid, sensible, you know, sound advice kind of thing. So sorry, did you say something, Monique?
No, clever.
Oh, okay. Oh, thanks. Thanks. Okay, well, I will let you go before the Zoom kicks us off. So take care, everybody, and we'll see you on the mandolin site. And again, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Great to meet you all.
Yeah, great to meet you all. Take care, everybody.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye.